I'm Jim, and this is Jim's Fix-A-Shop, and I'm back working on this Briggs & Stratton Craftsman lawnmower. It has a Briggs engine, which is one of their cheaper engines, I guess, because it has a 100% plastic carburetor. And if you've done any research on Google and asked what ethanol fuel does to plastic, rubber hoses, and some metals, you probably wouldn't be putting it in your lawnmower. But what's worse, if you use ethanol fuel in the end of the season, if you have any left over, dump it out. Put it in your car. Don't put it in your lawnmower come spring. This is new gas. Well, I won't say it's new. It comes out of my gas tank. I have a 15-gallon gas tank with a 12-foot hose and a nozzle like you have at the gas station that I fill my equipment with. When I fill that with premium gas with no ethanol, I put in a can of seafoam, and it runs fine. It lasts good until I use the whole thing up, which usually takes me about a year, and never had a problem with it. So this is the gas out of my tank. It's probably 6 months old. This is the gas that I took out of her lawnmower. New stuff, her stuff. And no, it is not a 2-cycle lawnmower. This is a 4-cycle engine. But what is even worse, and why it won't run, I don't know if you can really see that, but see how much water is in the bottom of this gas? And if you'll notice, the water stays on the bottom. And where does the gas come out of your gas tank going into your carburetor? Right off the bottom. And if you look close enough, you can see all the dirt and crap floating around in there. So what we got to do is take the gas tank off again. I went all through this last year. Clean the gas tank out. I got to clean the carburetor out and then put this thing all back together. When I get to cleaning out the carburetor, or the gas tank, I'll show you how I do that. This is a very clean machine. I mean, it looks like it could be brand new. I mean, look how clean everything is in here. But it's how clean the engine is in the carburetor and gas tank that's going to cause you issues or not. Let's see if we can get this tank off of here. I think it just, like I said, I worked on this last year. She had a neighbor work on it that said he got it running, he mowed his yard with it and had no issues. Brought it back to her, and apparently someone put some gas in it that was old. Get this gas to break loose. It's pretty well empty. You can look down in here with a flashlight, and surprisingly, this gas tank has a filter or a screen in the bottom of it. I don't know if you'd be able to see that or not down in there. Oh yeah, right there. So that's going to have to be cleaned out or blown out or something. This thing's probably all metric. Now this has a automatic choke on it, which I'm not really crazy about. But what can you do? And I'll show you in a second. I'll spin this thing around and show you how this choke works. All right, I got them tight enough. Got a little bit of gas in the carburetor yet. This is your linkage for your choke, and this is your little choke control. When it's cold, it's over here like this. Let me check. Yep, it has the carburetor choked off. You can see the little butterfly in there, opening and closing. And when it's mounted to a bracket hooked to the muffler. So as the heat transfers up here and gets onto this controller, it's just a little spring like a thermostat, and it opens up your choke. I guess they work, but they don't shut the choke off right away. It's got to heat all this up. Now the carburetor, it does come off quite nice. There's nothing that holds this on except, let me stick it back on, except the 4 screws that I just took out. Carburetor slides right off. It's just got a couple of rubber O-rings that keep it from leaking. And that's it. Let's take this apart and see how much garbage we got inside of here. And how much water. I don't know how I can open it up without flipping it over to see how much garbage is inside the carburetor. These things really stick. It's got an O-ring in there. It does not want to pop apart. So I'm going to have to pry it apart. A lot of water in there. I don't have anything to pour it into. Let me go get a container I can put that into. I'll be right back. Okay, I've got a semi-clear, clean container here. Well, there again, it's certainly not clean gas, and I can't tell how much. Well, you can see a separation there. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it or not. Let me kick this on. You can see a little line right there. I don't know if you can see it or not. Let me turn this so you're looking straight at it. It's about a 1/16 of an inch thick. That's all the gas that's in there. Oh, this is water. And you can see all the water. You can't. You can see the water residue and droplets in the bottom of that. So, I don't know how much dirt and stuff is in here. But I guess we'll crank up the ultrasonic cleaner. Let me plug that in and get it heating. Seeing it's all plastic, I'm only going to turn the temperature up to about 80 degrees. I don't want to melt this thing. Let's see what else is on here we can take apart. Here's the metal tube, or I should say metal bar that holds the float. How much of this you can see. The float is solid plastic. And yep, even the needle valve is plastic with a little piece of rubber on the bottom. So this is it. That's all the steel that's left in these carburetors that Briggs & Stratton built. It's really pathetic. Oh, and we do have a metal spring on the outside. So we're just going to butterfly for the choke is plastic. For the acceleration or speed of the engine, that does look like it may be brass or copper. I don't know, you can't really see in there. It's not plastic, it is some type of metal. So we're just going to throw this whole thing right in the cleaner. We might take that gasket off. And this is an O-ring up in here. It's supposed to be an O-ring in there, but I don't see it. It's gone. Well, that certainly isn't going to make it run any better. I'm sure that's supposed to have an O-ring in there. Oh yeah, it doesn't seal very good. It's a sloppy fit. I think the neighbor that worked on this thing lost the O-ring. So I guess there's a trip to the parts store. So once we get the cleaner warmed up and we start cleaning some of this crap, I'll be back. Now, I got the carburetor all cleaned up. I want to snap this thing back together, but I want to put a little lubricant on this O-ring. And this thing will last you the rest of your life. You need very little of this stuff. I've mentioned this before. It's 55 O-ring lubricant. It's by Dow Corning. And you just need a very small amount. And just wipe it on the O-ring. The last machine I just got done working on was a lawn boy. One my father-in-law bought brand new a few years ago because they were discontinuing two-cycle engines. And that's the whole point of a lawn boy. You can run it up and down steep hills. You don't have to worry about the oil splashing around in it. Well, his old one was getting very old, and he bought this brand new one. And let me tip you down here a little bit. Apparently got rid of his old one. I don't know if he gave it to someone or what he did with it, but this new one has never ran. I'm going to start these screws. I always turn them backwards. And you can feel it and hear it when the threads line up. If you just screw these things in, if you take them in and out too many times, every time you screw it in, you're cutting new threads. And eventually you're just going to have a stripped out hole that's not going to do anything. Boy, this thing sure don't want to go together with a toot. Now, there's one thing I do want to show you. This is a small section of gas line I took off of one of my machines because I wanted to add a shutoff valve. And this has been on there 5 or 6 years or better. And I want you to look at the inside of this gas line. This is a cut where I cut all the way through and hit the other side with the X-Acto knife. But see how nice that looks? Smooth. This is the gas line I just cut in half that I took off this machine. This machine burns ethanol fuel. That one did not. You can see, let me turn these the right way. You can see where the gas line was hooked to the carburetor and the fuel tank because it's full up to the full diameter. Now you can see where the gas line has shrank from the ethanol. And it's also, if I can get a hold of this, delaminating. It's falling apart. Eventually, that will shrink down and cut off your fuel flow. And with the line falling apart, that's going to get into your carburetor. That's what ethanol does. The cars today, they have a different type of fuel line that's more resistant to the ethanol effects. Now, I got the gas tank all cleaned out. Looks very nice inside. I don't know if you can see in there again. But I just used some warm water, put it in there, shook it around good. Some of these gas tanks, or most of them, they have like an insert going down in here. So when you try to tip this upside down, the gas can't, or the water can't all get out. So you want to dry it out good. The way I do that is I take a shop rag and I stuff it down in here. Now you want to grab yourself an air hose and blow some air in there. You can't really see what that rag is doing. But that rag is tumbling and flopping around all over inside that gas tank. And just give it a little air and it will eventually get to the point where you can grab onto it and pull it out. That's the best way I found to clean these things out. And it does a remarkably good job. Now we'll put this goofy thing back in here. So you don't lose your gas cap. And we'll put that back on. Now another thing that they've been not warning us, but letting us know, especially Chick Canick, she talks a lot about this. This is a new motor oil for small engines. And it has an additive in it, which is zinc. This is a little thicker than what I like to use. This is 10W30. I like to use 5W30. This is also, well, this just says engine oil, but the stuff I use is full synthetic, but it doesn't have zinc in it. This stuff is not really cheap. I got the slip around here somewhere. I found this at Tractor Supply. It's $8.99 a quart. But it is supposed to cut down wear on your bottom of your valves, your valve train, whether you have push rods with the overhead valve system, or if you have the conventional flathead like this is, the valves are running right on the camshaft, and that's supposed to really cut down on wear. So take that with a grain of salt. I'm going to grab a couple of things and I'll be right back. All right, now we're going to put this little rubber seal back in here. And we're going to put this carburetor back on. It's certainly not hard to put these things together. There's just not much to them anymore. Now we got to get the rod in here to accelerate the engine. Then we got to get this rod in here for the choke. And it just pushes on. Not much to it at all. Wipe some of the dust off of this thing. Okay. Standard and metric. Try to figure out what goes where. Oh, we lost that one. Where'd it go? Get a little breather tube back on there. I don't know if you can hear that, but that's the threads lining up in that plastic again.
I'll be right back.
I thought I heard somebody out knocking on the door, but I guess it was the turkeys out there. They have a tendency to come up and peck on the windows because they see their own reflection and they think it's another bird, so they're fighting with themselves. I'm surprised they haven't busted out one of my windows. Okay, now let's get this gas tank on. Well, oh, I forgot that went. Oh, that went flying. My little spring clamp for my gas line. Okay. Little WD-40 in there really helps that go on. Slides right on now. And we want these 90-degree pliers to grab this clamp with. Just makes it a little easier than the straight ones. And we'll stick this tank on here. And we'll try to get the hose on that. Why that is so long, I'm not really sure. So we're gonna make it a little shorter. I'm gonna move that clamp out of my way. If I leave that long on there, it's gonna kink and it's the piece I had, and it's a little long for the machine. We'll use this as the old one as a sample, and we'll cut that off right about there. Try this again. Well, that looks a little better. Now we want to put a little oil on that. A little WD-40 in there. It'll really help that slide on there. Still acting a little bit long, but it did go on. There, I guess. We'll put the cover back on and the air filter, and we'll take it outside and we'll see if it starts. So I'll be back. Okay, we'll fill this thing up with gas and see what happens. I don't know how long it's going to take to run down into the carburetor, but we'll give it a nice drink of ethanol-free fuel. It's probably the only time it's, well, twice in its life it had that. The last time I worked on it, and then this time. So we'll see how long it takes to start. I did notice that's a pretty fine screen in the gas tank, and it doesn't really like to flow through it very fast. When I was cleaning it out with the hot water, that wouldn't flow through it at all. So we'll see what the gas does. I guess it's going to take a minute to get down there. I hope that screen isn't totally plugged up. It looked clean. Yeah, it's flooded. I guess I'm gonna have to take it back in the shop and find out why gas is running right through it. I didn't check the, there it goes. I didn't check the needle valve with a vacuum because I just figured that was okay, but apparently it's not. So it's back in the shop we go. All right, I just tore it apart out here. I didn't want all that sticky gas in the building. Took the carburetor off, blew it out, opened it up. I couldn't see anything inside that was an issue. Put it back together, did a vacuum test. It holds the vacuum. What was, I have no clue, no clue. I'm thinking that the ethanol is taking a toll on this plastic carburetor and the little rubber tip on the needle valve. So not much I can do. If it starts leaking on her, it's just going to have a new carburetor or rebuild this one if you can rebuild them. So let's fill it up and see if the thing starts. There it goes. Cross your fingers. We'll let it sit out here for a few minutes and make sure it's not leaking. And I'll throw it in the truck, take it back, and drop it off. What can I say? Some days you just can't win. So that's it on this thing. My lawn boy, I'm gonna have to go talk to somebody on that. I think I'm missing a spring. When they built the thing, it acts like it's surging. It revs up and down and up and down. And it has a, I don't know what you'd even call them. The old Briggs and Strattons years ago used to have them. It's a plastic vane that sticks up and picks up air off of the flywheel. That's the governor. And I think it's just floating back and forth. I think I'm gonna pull the cover off and start it and watch that and see what it's doing, because I think it's just missing a spring, or the spring that's on there is shot. But I don't know if there's any lawn boy dealers around anymore. So until next time, work safe, have fun, and I'll talk to you soon. So long.